Thank you. Thank you so much, Arlen. Good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to be with you this afternoon to share with you about the Virtual Educator Network. My name is Johnita Porter, and I am a founding member of the Virtual Educator Network. I am joined this afternoon by two of my colleagues. Stacy Banks is a VEN certified facilitator, and Leslie Wallen is a teacher consultant for Ypsilanti Community Schools. And I'm so glad that they joined me this afternoon, as well as you. I'm glad that you joined me this afternoon so that we can share with you about this transformative professional development experience called the VEN. So I am going to start sharing my screen so you can see my slides. While I'm doing so, Stacy, if you want to go ahead and put the link to the slide deck in the chat. And also, Stacy shared a link to a survey, and that survey is requesting just your name and where you're from, because we are a new professional development experience and we want to make sure that we are providing the very best experiences for you all. And the way that we do that is by getting your information about the challenges that you're facing and topics that you like to see. So if you would go ahead and fill out your information, we would greatly appreciate it. So turning our attention to the slide deck, the VEN is a virtual, interactive, and collaborative experience for educators who are committed to improving best teaching practices and student outcomes. Our goal is to create meaningful connections for educators. And over the next hour, we are going to share with you how we do that and the outcomes that we've seen as a result of this work.
Johnita, sorry to interrupt you, but we might be seeing the presenter view rather than the full slide view.
Thank you. Okay, just one moment. Let me fix.
Yeah, we might be
Yep.
looking at the other
Yep.
desktop.
Let me fix that. Just one moment. Thank you, Arlen.
That's all right.
Hold on one second. You all have to talk to myself out loud when I'm doing this to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. Audience window. You want that over here. Oops. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. Share screen. Audience window. Okay, what about now?
Yeah, now it looks perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. So again, the goal of the VEN is to create meaningful connections for educators. And we're going to, over the next hour, we're going to share with you what that means and how we do that and the outcomes that we've seen as a result. And so I want to say up front, I want to put out a disclaimer and say that this is an interactive webinar. As Arlen mentioned at the onset, we will be utilizing the chat feature to respond to questions and provide feedback. So be ready for your opportunity to participate. So as we get started, we're going to frame our conversation today with this problem statement. And it's a well-known issue that keeps many of you up at night, I'm sure, and that is the teacher shortage. So did you know that as of February 2022, there were close to 400,000 teacher vacancies nationwide across our country? And more troubling is the fact that these vacancies have increased 35% last year. That's from an article from the Washington Post. The initial numbers are from Chalkbeat Detroit in an article discussing the teacher shortage. And so we're going to use this problem statement to frame the need for the VEN and what we do to provide support for teachers in school districts across the country. So these are just examples of headlines that we've seen over the last year. And ask yourself, are these headlines the types of headlines that are keeping you up at night, trying to fill your classrooms, hoping that you have a sub to fill your class when you are taking a day for personal or PD reasons, having a talented pool of having a talented pool of teachers to recruit, offering diverse staff to match the diversity of the community that you serve. These headlines tell a tale of a problem that continues to run rampant across our country and in our states. We know that we experienced this at the onset of the pandemic, but as I shared in the previous slide, the problem continues to grow rampant. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, what does the teacher shortage have to do with PD or something called the Virtual Educator Network? Well, over the next hour, we're going to delve into our research and what we've learned about effectively supporting teachers so that this profession in your school district is somewhere that you all want to stay. So over the next hour, I will be telling you a story of PD support and the results that we've had in Michigan, because we are based in Michigan. And we assert that our model is one step in the right direction of support that districts need to implement as educator recruitment, retention, and support tool. I also want to say before we get going into the meat of things that what you will find this afternoon is that all of our evidence is backed by research. And at the end of this slide deck, you'll find all of the links to our sources that we reference throughout the presentation. So with that being said, our agenda for today begins with the beginning, with the how and the why we created the VEN, and it follows some of the root cause analysis behind the teacher shortage. Then we're going to jump into some of the nuts and bolts behind our model, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to experience the VEN for yourself through a mock simulation. And finally, we'll share some testimonials and we'll discuss what's next for the VEN and how you might want to engage with us as teachers or building professionals or school professionals or the like. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. Stacy is monitoring the chat as we go through the presentation. So this slide is a picture of myself and my research partner, Dr. Kelly Anderson. This work with the VEN, it originally started as a dissertation project. And as many of you are likely aware, most EDD dissertations select a case study or survey a model for their research. And as a team, we really were set out on creating something new and testing it out rather than looking at existing phenomena. So we actually began with an intersection of interest between Kelly and myself. Kelly is a special education, she's an early childhood expert with a passion with inclusion. And my expertise lies solely in special education. I'm a retired educator currently, but before I retired, I spent my entire career in the field of special education. And collectively, Kelly and I were frustrated because we felt like inclusion would be so much more effective if teachers were simply reflective on their role and what they could change. So let me know if this sounds familiar. Rhonda, I know you said that you are a Title I teacher with reading, and then I know that we had another participant, Ellen. She is a math teacher. And so let me know if this sounds familiar. Every PLC staff meeting, your grade level team meeting, it turns into a problem admiration session. It turns into a session where someone brings up an issue and then you get lost into kind of talking about the challenge and not focus on the solution. So, a colleague might be consumed by a problem, which is a very real problem, that they can't hear anything else that is being said during the day. So with that problem in mind, Kelly and I set out to create a space for teachers to work through those top of the mind struggles that they were having in a productive way, but to actually address their challenges. So after we completed our study and finished the edits, we realized that we had learned that what we had learned was not something that we could just walk away from now that our program was completed. So I want to stop and apologize in advance. You will hear the passion in my voice. If any of you are familiar with an artist named Erykah Badu, she put out a song back in the late 90s, and at the beginning of this song, she was debuting it, and she said, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my artistry, right? I'm paraphrasing. And so I'm the same way. I'm very passionate about this. And as we go through the afternoon, you'll hear that passion in my voice. So I apologize in advance. So let's return to that problem statement that I shared at the onset, the close to 400,000 teacher vacancies that's growing and increasing every year. Let's return to how that fits into that problem of today, which is retention and recruitment. We know that teachers are leaving the profession due to stress. And it's not just the stress of completing report cards or attending child study or MTSS meetings. This is stress that is from the social emotional needs of post-pandemic students and needs, of confronting new problems that they don't have ready access to in their toolbox. So unfortunately, many of our district systems, they're not set up well to help teachers meet their needs, and districts are scrambling as a result for staff, for social emotional resources, academic needs, chronic absenteeism needs. Traditional PD and mentorship and building leadership models, they're just not enough anymore. In fact, we did a marketing study with University of Michigan marketing students, and they surveyed 101 teachers across the country. And one of the essential questions they asked was, how are teachers going about getting support for PD? And what they found overwhelmingly is that teachers are looking to informal networks such as Twitter, now X, Reddit, Instagram, and TikTok for support versus going the traditional route. And it's very apropos because what the VEN does is add a structured layer to an informal PD that allows for problem solution instead of problem admiration. So the problems, as in a nutshell, with all that being said, are: one, more teachers are retiring or leaving the profession earlier, coupled with decreased teacher preparatory enrollment. Two, lots of stressors are creeping into our work, and they're different stressors. And three, the current methods that we use to support teachers often don't match the reality of the methods teachers use or desire for support. But now with the VEN, it does. And so we've created a professional development model that for teachers that takes into account the current educational landscape and educator needs. Again, our model is called the VEN, or the Virtual Educator Network, and it's an informal social PD model that is in part based on these four theories. We have a plethora of theories that are associated with our model, but we call these the Fab Four. So I just want to briefly tell you about them. I'm not going to get into the weeds too much, but briefly, our first model at the 12 o'clock spot is adult learning theory. And adult learning theory is a theory that talks about andragogy, this concept of andragogy, or how adults learn, versus pedagogy. Now, as teachers, we are well familiar with pedagogical practices. We incorporate them into our work every day when we decide and determine how we want to support our students. But very often, we are not incorporating the andragogical practices that we need to consider in terms of how adults learn best. And the VEN does that. At the 3 o'clock spot, we incorporate social learning theory. This is a theory by Bandura and Walters. I call this a oldie but goodie because this theory really talks about the benefit of individuals learning from each other and from incorporating and leveraging diverse perspectives. We are a diverse group in education. I don't have to tell anyone that. We have teachers from all walks of life, backgrounds, content areas, and the like. And so Bandura and Walters, they really talk about the benefit of leaning in and leveraging that collective expertise in a productive way. At the 6 o'clock spot, there's affective neuroscience. And affective neuroscience is one of my favorites because I was a teacher. I started off as a teacher for students with emotional impairments or behavior difficulties. And so this is a personal favorite of mine. And what affective neuroscience says is that there is emotions that are connected to learning. And in Dino Yang, she asserts that if you tie those connections and learning together, it leads to deep learning, which is the sweet spot that we want all of our learners to be in. The best example that I give for this, or I can give for this, is think about for in your respective states, if you heard that your governor was cutting, 10% of the budget statewide, yes, you would be concerned, right? But if your superintendent said that there was going to be a 10% cut directly affecting your school or your classroom, you would lean in a little bit more. You would want to know more details. Your emotions were connected, are now invested. And so you want to learn a little bit more. How long is this cut? Who authorized it? What's the reason for it? Is there any way around it? That's an example of affective neuroscience at work, connecting the emotions to your learning to lead to deeper understanding. And then finally, at the 9 o'clock spot, there's social network theory. And this theory is from Mulliner. And what this theory talks about is the benefit of a social network perspective and the informal collaboration and benefits of informal collaboration that happens within organizations. And so what we did at the VEN is we put all of these together with others, and what results is the VEN solution, AKA the VEN method. So the VEN method is really centered around this tenet, that teachers are seen, safe, and supported. Teachers are seen, safe, and supported. It shouldn't be a unique concept, right? But it's something that we really model every single day in the work that we do in schools. And so there are 5 components to the VEN solution or the VEN method. Reflection. So we provide teachers an opportunity to really reflect on their practice. You all know that you are constantly hopping from place to place. You're in the spring season right now. You know how busy it is. You barely have enough time to go to the bathroom, yet alone to stop and reflect. But with the VEN, we intentionally incorporate that reflection because that is what's needed for teachers to really think about their practices and make those changes or adjustments. Relationship building. We build relationships among our participants. And it's also important because we are asking teachers to do something that is uncomfortable, which is to share where they are struggling, to share their challenges, and to receive support from people who they may or may not know. We also incorporate opportunities for collaboration. So we allow educators to learn from one another through a unique experience. And it leads to this really great and in-depth collaborative problem solving that you'll get to experience in just a moment. Our fourth method or solution is facilitation. We utilize a facilitation model. That's part of the andragogy that I mentioned the slide before. So what we found is that in order for problems and conversations to be productive, instead of admiring problems, you have to have facilitators to lead participants through their learning to make sure the conversations are productive and structured. And then finally, validation. And validation is this concept of the seen, the safe, and supported. And really, it's a prerequisite to vulnerability, authenticity, and belonging. We have to empower our participants, and through the VEN, we do empower our participants to have the confidence in their abilities as an educator. And we all know that education is often under attack. And so it's very easy for us to question our abilities as educators, but we have the expertise, and through the VEN, we teach you and guide you on leveraging it. So I talked about how this model began out of a research study. And so these are 5 of the overarching themes from our study. The first is that there was importance to establishing this collaborative safe space where folks could come together from different years of service, different content areas, different grades, different districts, different schools to collaborate. The second is the magnitude of cross-level collaboration. Now, I will say, and I've said before, that when we started this research study, we were in the height of the pandemic. And so we didn't have a lot of people to participate. They were just trying to get a handle on what we were doing in this new virtual world, right? And so we had subjects who were represented all different types of areas. We had a social worker with an elementary teacher, with a high school art algebra teacher, with a counselor. It was like a hodgepodge. And I didn't believe it was going to work. I was very skeptical. I told Kelly I was skeptical, but the magnitude of cross-level collaboration was one of the main themes that came across with our outcomes. Participants said that they really appreciated having that opportunity to connect with a teacher that they don't typically have a chance to collaborate with, to be able to see what happens at a different level, to be able to place into perspective how the elementary work ties into how a student presents when they come to high school and vice versa. So it's very powerful. The third outcome was the impact on teacher and student outcomes. Because of those components that we put together in the VEN solution and the VEN method, it leads to teachers being able to be more reflective about their practice and making changes, which ultimately impacts student outcomes, which is what we're in this business to do. The third, again, is that facilitator role is so integral. And then lastly, that relationship building is a key foundational element because again, we're asking teachers to do something that's uncomfortable, to be vulnerable, and to trust that what they say to us in the VEN is not going to come back around and kick them in the teeth, or going to show up on an evaluation tool or on their performance evaluation or the like. So relationship building and that trust is a key. This slide just shows a visual of our pantheon, and all it is the research outcomes that I just shared with you. So it shows the facilitator role and the relationship building as key pieces. And then we have 5 pillars that impact teacher practice and student outcomes. So when we finished our research study, we decided that the results were so positive that we wanted to engage in a beta test. And we wanted to make sure that what we saw in a research field was the same in a non-research environment. So we engaged in a collaboration with a school district in Michigan, Wayne Westland Community Schools. And in the fall of 2021, we worked with that district to add our PD to their catalog of offerings that district staff could choose from. So in Michigan, we do sketches. I heard Arlen say that in Illinois, you all do ISBE, I believe. So it's the equivalent. The teachers received 1 sketch for every hour of participation. We held 2 sessions that school year. There were 6 meetings offered in each session. They met for 1 hour twice a month. We had a diverse teacher perspective. We had 34 teachers signed up, ranging from pre-K to adult transition programs. We had gen ed, special ed, specials, coaches, interventionist roles who expressed interest, and they range from 4 to 29 years of experience. The training outcomes that we saw in the beta test was similar to what we saw in the research study, and that was very positive. And so what I want to emphasize to you with the beta test is that when we did our research study, I mentioned we were in the height of the pandemic, so everything was all virtual. When we did the beta test, people were back in school. And so we wanted to make sure that maintaining that virtual safe space was still going to be effective, and it was. Okay, so they were in person in schools, but we still conducted the VENs online, and it was effective. One thing that we found is that we had a small participant size. So of the 34 people who expressed interest in participating, only 10, or about a third, they participated. And the major reason provided by participants for why they signed up but did not participate was the time that the VEN was held. We held it after school on a Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and people had conflicts or personal reasons or what have you. What that said to us is that school districts have to emphasize making time for this work, not unlike what you do with making time for your PLCs, for your communities of practice. You have to make time for the VEN during the school day because the teachers want it, but they want it during the day as part of their professional development offerings. So because we had this great outcome and great results from the beta test, we decided to bring our model to market. And so then we began working with another school district in Michigan, Plymouth Canton Community Schools. And Plymouth is the fourth largest school district in the state of Michigan. We are currently undergoing our second year of work with them. Last year, we began working with their instructional department. We began training their district instructional coaches. And again, like the study and the beta test, the outcomes were extremely positive, with the respondents indicating that they found the VEN an enjoyable and useful form of PD, and that the VEN supported their problems of practice in the professional setting. They also reported changes in their instructional practices. And in terms of the collaborative aspect, the languages and communication and dialogue that they were having, the VEN really enriched those practices, those communications, and the problem solving aspect. And so we, this year, we are working with year two cohort, and we're training all of the building coaches throughout the district. And then next year for year three, we're going to train the department heads, and then they will be offering VENs to replace one PLC to see how that works. And then they're also going to be creating VENs to support their curriculum work because they're rolling out a new curriculum, and supporting new teachers through their new teacher cohort. So there's a lot of great things going on. And one of the wonderful things about the VEN is that it's adaptive. You can place the model over several different areas of focus in your school or in your district. I do want to mention that there is a pre and post survey results in the report at the end of the slide deck for Plymouth Canton and for Wayne Westland. So this slide just shows our competitive positioning. We're a new model, so it only makes sense that we rate ourselves and see how we measure up to some of the commonly used PD models in the space. And so real briefly, I'm not going to go through this in much depth, but I do want to say that if you think about PD on a continuum of transactional experiences to transformational experiences, transactional is that you're consuming the information, but you're not seeing much change to your practice, to transformational, where you're incorporating changes and they become a lifelong part of your practice as a teacher. And then if you think about PD from adaptive, like I mentioned before, ability to shape and morph based on the needs of the participants, to routine learning, the VEN is aligned in the upper quadrant of an adaptive and transformational experience because of the components that we've incorporated and the feedback that we've received from our participants about how they feel about this training. So this slide just shows our routine of interaction. It's our process. But rather than me go through that process diagram, we're going to take you through the mock simulation. So what we're going to do is simulate a component of the VEN called the help seat. And the help seat is where you have a teacher that brings their problem to the virtual space, and they share their problem with a facilitator guiding the conversation. And so in this simulation, Leslie will serve as our teacher coming into the help seat with a problem of practice. Stacy will be the facilitator who types the information on the screen. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Stacy can pull up the protocol worksheet. And then I will serve as the facilitator who guides Leslie through the problem of practice. We're going to take about 15 minutes to go through this. And so I need a timekeeper. Arlen, are you still on the screen?
Yep, I can set a timer for you.
Okay, thank you. If you could set a time for 15 minutes, that would be great.
You bet.
And so participants who are in the webinar watching, here's your job. You are going to listen to me guide Leslie and have a conversation about her problem of practice. You have to listen in because in a few moments, I'm going to ask for you to do two things. One, you can ask questions, clarifying questions that to maybe clear up anything that I may not have asked. And then after that, you'll have an opportunity to give Leslie some suggestions that she can take back to her school to use immediately. So Stacy has her sheet pulled up. This is the protocol sheet that we use in the help seat. We're going to start the mock simulation now. Leslie, it's so good to have you in the help seat. Thank you for volunteering to bring your problem to the VEN. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. So Leslie, you can see the protocol worksheet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Leslie, we're going to start by having you talk about your problem of practice. And just a reminder, when you start your discussion, try to start with a prompt such as, I have a student who, or I have a concern with. Those are examples of good sentence starters to get the conversation going.
Okay. So I have a student who we're having a hard time with getting him to be able to complete academic work because he is perseverating on the use of his technology, his school device, to research his interests and go on YouTube. His interests are mostly cartoons, so he wants to watch cartoons, look at pictures of cartoons, and kind of become a cartoon himself. He embodies a cartoon.
So Leslie, you have a student who is having difficulty staying focused with academics because he's really perseverating on technology, videos, YouTube. He like embodies it to the point where he takes it on and feels like he is a cartoon himself.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And it was a boy or girl or
a male student? Yeah,
male student. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what grade is this student in?
He's in the 10th grade.
So this is a 10th grade student. And Leslie, is he in general ed? Is he in a special ed class? Tell me a little bit about his academic setting.
So he's primarily in a gen ed setting. He does have we're in a block schedule. So he has 2 blocks of a resource room or critical skills class is what we call it here.
Okay. So he's on a block schedule. He
Mm-hmm.
has 2 blocks of resource room. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then what happens during the other time?
He's in a gen ed setting, gen ed class.
And when he's in the resource room, how many students does he have in that space?
I would say probably around 10.
Okay. So 10 students in the resource room twice a week. And then when he's in the general ed class, it's a normal 30 normal student. Full classroom.
Full class.
Yeah. Got you. Leslie, have you found, looking in the second box, have you found, like thinking about the student's relationship to you, are you his caseload teacher?
I'm not, but I advise his TC.
Got it. And so do you know how the student responds to his TC? Does she, when she tries to redirect him, how does he respond to that?
Um, right now he has such big behaviors, and he's just a big student in general. So, and his case manager is a very small person, so I think she feels sometimes unsafe with his unsafe behaviors.
Hmm.
Um, so they have a trying relationship. Um, because on one hand he can be a very engaging, very fun student, but when he is not given his device, he creates an environment that is not safe for himself or others.
Leslie, you mentioned that when he doesn't get his device, then the behaviors can sometimes become dangerous. How often would you say those type of big behaviors happen?
I'd say in the scope of a day, probably, at least once per block.
Okay. And how long does the behavior last?
Usually, so he has a one-on-one para. Usually the para and either the special ed supervisor or the other TC, they remove him from the room, and he calms down um fairly quickly when he's in a space by himself.
Okay. He has a para. How
He
does he
does.
respond to the para?
Um, it's a mixed response. Sometimes he's able to be redirected, but a lot of times the para is just kind of quickly trying to shuffle him to a calm space so that he doesn't injure himself or others.
Does he respond better to anyone else in the building? I know you mentioned the special ed director. How does he respond to her?
He responds, I think, well to her because her office is where he goes.
Okay.
Which, and I'm not sure if that's where he wants to go, and he's doing this because he wants to go there, or
Mm-hmm.
it's also just a behavior because of the device.
Got you. So he respond. He goes to the special ed director's office. That's
Hmm.
his. That's like his timeout space or
Correct.
quiet space,
Yeah. Yep.
and you're not sure if he's doing that because he likes going there
Right. I'm not sure
or
if it's helping or hindering the behaviors that are tied to his
right,
technology
right.
usage.
Got it. Okay. Um, let's look at for time's sake with the simulation, let's look at the third box. We know he prefers technology, right?
Hmm.
And we know that he likes YouTube and he likes cartoons. Um, are there any other preferred interests or activities that you know of that you can share?
He loves to draw.
Okay.
Um, so I was his TC last year. So I would print him character coloring sheets, and he would modify them or color them, or he likes to draw. Like he would draw me in the style of The Simpsons or in the style of Johnny Test, or he likes to draw.
He likes to draw. And are there any other preferred activities that you can think of?
No, it's pretty much the cartoons and drawing
Okay.
and YouTube.
You mentioned that he has the behaviors once an hour. So, and how long do the behaviors last?
It's I'd say a variety of times. Sometimes he can, throw himself on the floor and then say, "Oops, shouldn't have done that,"
Mm,
and then he, gets back. But I think we try to, or they try to pull him out so that he doesn't, affect the other students in the room.
hmm.
Um, so I'm not quite sure how long they would last when he was in the gen ed classroom. If they were to say, "Nope, have a seat,"
Right, right,
"Nope, we're doing math right now."
right. So I'm hearing you say that you're trying some other strategies when the behavior happens. You can't quite pinpoint how long it's sustaining in that one environment. Is that
Right,
correct?
right, correct.
Um, And then Stacy, scroll down. So do you know when he is in general ed or in the block and he's on task, does he enjoy the academic material or not? Or
I think so. I
okay.
I think he really likes being at school. Um, and he likes learning new things, especially like in a history class or an ELA class where they are doing things that are more story based. He's a really good reader.
Okay.
Um, so he is able to kind of latch on to, and I think it connects to the cartoons because cartoons have a story.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of views everything as a character. So if you're talking about, a character in history, he's in his mind, he's turning it into a story that he
Got
can
it.
remember.
So it sounds like he enjoy so I heard you say he likes storytelling, he enjoys reading, he can take a character that's in a history, history book, and he can kind of turn it into his interest. So there's some
Mhm.
creativity there as well, it sounds like, perhaps. Um, Anything else that you would like to share with us, Leslie, before I open up the virtual space for our participants who are listening or watching?
Um, I think that's all for now. I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So, group, as you have been listening to Leslie share her problem of practice, you've heard me ask some probing questions, and this is your time. I'm going to give you a minute. Well, yeah, I'm going to give you a minute, and I'd like for you to ask any questions that you might have for Leslie about the problem of practice that she shared about her student. Please enter them into the chat. And if you don't have questions, I would like for you to turn your brain to, oh, here's a question. As we're going through these, if you don't have a question, I want you to start turning your brain to suggestions that you can offer to Leslie, because that's where we're headed next. So turn into the chat. Ellen asks, just to clarify, are we trying to solve this issue for the whole day or just the resource room time?
So the behaviors do happen during the whole day, but I believe that there are more incidents during the resource room time, I think because it's less structured, but
So
throughout the day.
So, Leslie, would you like for people to give suggestions throughout the day? Or do you want them to focus on how can they help him during that unstructured resource time?
Let's go resource room time.
Okay. All right. So, group, think about how we can help this student during those 2 blocks twice a week when he's in the unstructured resource room time, or less structured. I don't want to say it's not structured. Rhonda has a question. Does he attempt to write any of his stories?
I've seen him write stories about characters that are, Nickelodeon characters that he will write into other situations. So he's creating stories out of existing characters.
So I'm hearing you say not original stories, but they're stories based on stories that already exist.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then Mr. Downey, A. Downing said, does the student read stories or books without illustrations?
Um, he can. I'm not sure how much how good his comprehension skills are. If he doesn't have at least a little bit of a clue of, you know, if it's an unfamiliar text. Um, so a little bit of picture input.
So he could do it, but there may not be the comprehension component there, and he needs the picture clues to help with the context.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So just to summarize briefly, we have a 10th grade student who is primarily in general ed, but also in 2 blocks of resource room. And though that resource room has 10 students in it, and this student, Leslie would like support on helping this student sustain on academic tasks, because currently he's having difficulty attending to the academic tasks because he is really perseverating on technology, specifically YouTube and cartoons. He is demonstrating big behaviors at least once an hour, and he has to be removed to other settings. And the question that we have here in step 2, the question that Leslie has is how does she help the student focus on academics during the resource room time and reduce the amount of big behaviors that they are currently seeing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the group in the virtual space. Please begin to offer strategies to Leslie. And what will happen now is we will start to write those questions down those suggestions down in step 2. So here's a question, follow-up question. Is the drawing an avoidance tactic or a coping mechanism?
In my opinion, it is avoidance.
Avoidance. Okay, so the function of that drawing is to avoid the academics.
So if he, it's either the computer or when presented with a task, if the computer is not there, he will draw to avoid doing the task.
Got it. Okay. Drawing to avoid the task. So at this point, the space is open. In the final few minutes that we have with the simulation, please offer some suggestions to Leslie. What are some things that she can do to help her student to be more focused on academics in the resource room time?
And Johnita, you got a 1-minute warning on your timer.
Thank you. Can you set the timer for another 4 minutes, please?
You bet.
Thank you. All right, so here's our first suggestion coming in, and we're going to keep them coming. So Ellen says, how much are we able to adjust academic assignments in a way to build off of the drawings? For example, draw the main character from the ELA story, make a comic strip about the topic in social studies. Ellen also wondered, could he make a video of his work or use technology to complete those assignments? Thank you, Ellen. What other suggestions do we have for Leslie? One of the things that I wondered, Leslie, was if there is someone in the building, like you mentioned, the special ed director, he might use that as you're not sure if it's a help or hindrance. Could there be a check-in, check-out system where he perhaps gets to see that person at the beginning of the day? She encourages him, reminds him to what the goal is. And then if he stays on task during the resource room, he can come back to check in with her, get a star or a high five or a good job, something like that.
Yeah.
Here is a question. Is the avoidance only for certain subjects or all? So that's the question, but since we're in the solution sharing, I'm going to go to the solution here, which is I might try to let him draw when he initially comes in and then transition to work. And then the other suggestion is letting the student chunk the work that is causing frustration and then allowing some drawing as a reward. So 2 suggestions there. Drawing initially and then transition. And then the other idea was to do a little bit of work and then draw as a reward for completing the work. And Ellen said she was thinking the same thing if adjusting the assignments are not possible. For time's sake, we are going to move from the suggestion sharing, and what the ideas that were shared this afternoon, Leslie, were number one, to adjust academic assignments to build on the love of drawing. Two, make a video of the student work or use technology to complete those assignments. So adjusting the criteria, the expectation. Three was a check-in, check-out system with this preferred administrator or staff member. And then finally, drawing at the beginning of the hour, and then transitioning to work, or you could consider having him earn drawing as a reward after he completes work. Of the strategies that were shared this afternoon, Leslie, is there any one that speaks out to you that you'd like to try?
I like a combination of the first and the second one. So kind of tailoring the assignments to his strengths and then building in the drawing aspect as well. So using technology to build on what he is able to do on his device.
Okay.
And then also building in the drawing. So
Okay.
adjusting the assignments.
Okay, so Leslie, I'm hearing you say that you are committed to trying to build off of the student's strengths by incorporating some of his preferred interests with using technology into his assignments, and then also adjusting those assignments to build on his love of drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so Leslie, what we would do then, well, let me ask you this. Do you need are there any resources that you need in terms of how to, adjust assignments for technology-based projects or the like?
I think I'll work closely with his gen ed teachers and how we can kind of collaborate to get both the student and the teacher needs met, for assignments.
Okay. So Stacy, let's write that down too, that Leslie is going to connect with the gen ed teacher to find out how to make those adjustments as necessary. And then Leslie, we would look forward. So group, this is a simulation, obviously, but if this were real, we would follow back up with Leslie in 2 weeks by way of the help seat check-in. And so at that point, Leslie, you would come back into the space, you would give us an update, you would share any products, if there were anything that student products that you wanted to share, and then we could put those in our growing resource collection for people to share or use at their will. So thank you so much, Leslie. Do you have any questions about the plan or anything?
Nope, I'm excited to collaborate and see if we can better meet the needs of the student.
Well, good luck. Good luck to you, and good luck to the student. Okay, great. So that concludes the simulation, and you might have questions about the simulation. If you do, or about the process, throw those in the chat and we'll answer those in just about 3 minutes. And so let me share my screen again to wrap up. Hopefully you were able to see the power of the VEN, which is really about putting the teacher in the driver's seat to get the support that they need, and then utilizing the expertise within the group to kind of crowd share solutions to problems of practice. I want to share real briefly just a 1-minute clip of one of our instructional coaches who talked about oh wait, I gotta make sure I did the share sound. She's going to talk about her experience with the VEN. And give me a thumbs up if you, Stacy, Leslie, give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
My experience has been very, very positive, and I feel like this is a very powerful tool that is just going to take us to the next level in education, because it's centered around supporting teachers who are supporting students and tapping into the knowledge and expertise that all of these educators have that we surround ourselves with. And so not only is it empowering the person in the help seat, but it's also empowering the people that are coming to the table and just really speaking loud and clear that we are all experts, and we all have something that we can add that would be helpful for our colleagues. Yeah. And I think, in education, we do want to support one another, but unfortunately, education is a very isolating field. You go in your classroom, yes, you might have grade level meetings and those types of things, but they're few and far between, and you're just on this island by yourself trying to work it out. And so I see this as a tool to just really support teachers, and let them know that you're not in it alone, that you have people around you that can help you as these things come up, that will help you to move forward with whatever problems or issues you might be facing in your classroom. And after learning this process and experiencing it myself, I just feel like so much potential. I feel like I'm sitting on a keg of dynamite and I'm just waiting for this explosion of positivity and impact that's going to come from it.
So one person's example or experience with the VEN, but it echoes the work that or the sentiments that we've been hearing from participants who go through it. I want to wrap up by briefly talking to you just real quickly about who benefits from this model. So I shared that this is an adaptive model, and so teachers benefit, instructional coaches, support staff, Title I teacher, general ed teachers. If you are a school professional who is concerned about improving best teaching practices and student outcomes, the VEN is for you. And other people are saying, here's something that other people are saying about the VEN. This quote is from Johnita Thompson. She is the co-director of student life of intergroup relations at University of Michigan. She is one of the authors that we cited in our research on the facilitation work. And she looked at our model and she said, she talked about the facilitator role, and she said the value of having a facilitator who is an educator means that participants are working with a colleague who has experience in the classroom and can ask questions to elicit a diversity of perspectives, clarify responses, and keep the focus on the issue being addressed. Facilitators listen to the suggestions from others to create a plan of action and outline accountability measures for participants. The facilitator may follow up with additional resources for participants if they wish, and typically we do. And so you might be thinking about, well, what kind of offerings, if I want to get involved with the VEN, what do you offer? You can choose a variety of training experiences that work for you. We have a VEN participant experience, which involves our VEN certified trained facilitators in a virtual space, not unlike this one. And we lead people through those VEN participant experiences through the help seat to collaborate with other educators from around the country, different school districts, or the same school district in a safe, supportive, and virtual environment. We also offer a certified facilitator training. It's a 10-hour abridged version where you can learn the skill, the facilitation skill, the dance that you saw Stacy and I do, and that can allow you to run VENs in your own setting. That's online, live, or asynchronous. We also have, and this is our most popular version, the VEN Certified Trainer. This is the intensive 30-hour, 5-day unabridged version where you learn everything that there is to know about the VEN, from the research to problems of practice to conversations to VENing. We made it a verb, so to VEN, and you have the luxury of creating different VEN experiences within your school or organization, not unlike what Plymouth is currently doing. And then finally, if you're interested in our model, but you want something that's a little bit different or that you don't see on the screen, reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you design a personalized solution. We are outside of the box thinkers, and we would love to support you in whatever your district or individual goals are. I want to let you know that not only do we, but we also support school social workers. And so there is a QR code on your public view side. If you know a school social worker who is interested in participating in the VEN, but it's from a social work perspective, using social work theories, scan the QR code, reach out to us. We are doing a beta test of that model, and so it's free. Social workers just have to pay $20 to process their CEs, but that's it. And we're happy to work with them and support them. And we also offer facilitator training for social workers as well. We have lots of current supporters. They're growing every day. This is a list of some of our supporters. We just received government status as a service disabled veteran-owned small business. We're very proud of that, and we're looking forward to doing work with the government in the future. These are more of our supporters. And so with that, I want to thank you for participating. I want to make sure see if there's any questions in the chat. While I'm doing that, these are the opportunities to connect with us by phone, by email. Check out our website. We have our link in bio here where you can engage with us on social media and also find out about our events coming up. What questions might you have about this VEN experience?
Yes, feel free to type in the chat any final questions you've got for the team here. Dr. Porter, I want to thank you so much for sharing this wonderful information with us about the VEN and how it can be used to support educators all across the country.
Absolutely.
And I love the
Absolutely.
simulation. Thanks to Leslie and Stacy. That was really powerful to be able to see the VEN in action
Thank you
through the
so
simulation.
much.
That was fantastic.
If you are interested in having us do a demo for your school, for your organization, please reach out to us and let us know. We are happy to do that. And then again, don't forget to scan the QR code or go to the link VEN and Cutley /VEN and ELN to take the survey so that we can connect with you and find out about, what your training preferences and training topic preferences are. And so, Stacy, do we have any questions in the chat?
And Stacy, it looks like you're muted.
I just mentioned Jason had said, thank you for an excellent, informative, and productive webinar. Much appreciated. And Ellen said, no final questions. Thank you for your presentation and showing the VEN model in action.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you all being here. As I said before, we are a growing enterprise. We're a group of teachers. We work, I'm retired, but most of us work full time. And so, the greatest thing that you could do for us is just to spread the word about the VEN and let folks know about us and encourage them to get in touch with us. And so with that, I thank you and I wish you a safe and productive rest of your evening and a happy and healthy end of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you.